Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Stephanie Bree. and today I'm going to talk a little bit about why I lost interest in the WWE and professional wrestling in general. I've already done a video that cataloged how I got into professional wrestling in the first place. So you can watch that as a, kind of point of entry. The short version is I watched it when I was a kid, but I didn't understand it. So to me, it was just colorful characters. It was like a comic book movie or a video game. Just this guy fighting this guy, good guy versus bad guy. I didn't follow the storylines. I didn't know the names of the characters all that much. I just watched it to watch it. And then a few years ago, working at the newspaper, I met a professional wrestler by the name of Sam Houston. We became personal friends. I did some work for him, made a music video for him. We hung out a few times. He was on one of my previous podcasts, and that was around the same time I started watching the TV show Glow on Netflix. So that sparked my interest in wrestling, and then so I started watching SmackDown. So that's where I got in. When I started watching SmackDown, things were different than they are now. When I started watching SmackDown, the big beef was Baron Corbin versus Roman Reigns. That was the big beef. You had other characters like, Nikki Cross was there. The Kabuki Warriors were there. They eventually split up. Let's see, who else was there? The Viking Raiders, I believe. I saw them. The New Day, I saw them. There were quite a few others. But I didn't know who anybody was. I didn't really understand it. So I was just getting into it around 2019? 2018? So I started watching in 2018. And I didn't watch regularly or religiously or anything like that. I didn't start watching weekly until 2020. Right before COVID put the fucking brakes on everything. So just as I was starting to figure out how to follow a storyline and get into the characters, everything changed. I did not watch during the COVID days. During the, them doing it, working at the performance center with no crowd, I didn't even watch. I was just like, no, not for me. Not happening. I didn't come back until they put the monitors in the crowds and at least had, kind of a show. A little bit more like the, what we're familiar with. And even then, I was still a little like, I don't know really what's going on. But I was attracted to a handful of storylines and beefs. One of the main characters that I really liked to follow, I really liked what was going on with his storyline, was Bray Wyatt and The Fiend. Unfortunately, he just passed away in real life. So that story ended abruptly, and there's literally nothing they can do about it. He died, which sucks, and I did a whole video on that already. My tribute to Bray Wyatt. That was painful. That was a very hard day for me. That was a hard weekend for me. I took a while to process that. That was the start of me losing interest in WWE, because one of the main reasons I was watching was, no longer there. The other reason why I started to lose interest is when I first started watching, I was instantly hooked on Nikki Cross. I went and bought her action figure as soon as I went hunting week after week, toy store after toy store, looking for her action figure until I finally found it. I was enamored by Nikki Cross, and they did her dirty with that whole almost a superhero bullshit. And so I got really pissed off, and I was just like, oh shit. And then the never ending reign of Roman Reigns and the goddamn bloodline. I got so fed up with the bloodline. I told myself at WrestleMania, if Roman doesn't lose the belt, I am not watching anymore. I'm done. And he didn't lose the goddamn belt. But I was still hopeful at that time that they were going to do something interesting with The Fiend or Bray Wyatt. He wasn't really The Fiend. He hadn't come back as The Fiend. They were doing Uncle Howdy. The Bray Wyatt had just come back, so I was like, okay, I'll stick around to see what they do with Bray Wyatt. The other wrestlers that I like to follow was The Miz. I like to follow The Miz, and at the time I started watching, it was Miz and Morrison, and they got rid of Morrison, so The Miz changed. He went from being, a tag team god to this clown that they just kick around, and that pissed me off. It really did. It pissed me off. It's like, Jesus Christ. You're, like, fucking over my favorite wrestlers. All my favorite wrestlers, you're fucking them over. And you're pushing hard all the people I fucking hate. And I started to realize that all the characters I liked weren't doing the things I liked them to do. Again, when I started watching, Lacey Evans was in this really cool uniform with this really fun character that I thought was really interesting. And she goes away for a while, and when she comes back, she's the female Sergeant Slaughter. And I'm like, oh, God. We already had this character when I was a kid. I mean, yeah, sure. Good toy. Okay character on the cartoon G.I. Joe. But as a wrestler? Give me a break. That's tried. That's played out. Boring. I don't want it. So I'm like, great. Now they're fucking over Lacey Evans. So I'm like, what the fuck am I even watching for? I started to really get pissed off. Then the Judgment Day came on the scene. This kept me going for a while. It did, because I liked the Judgment Day. I was rooting for the Judgment Day. I like Finn Balor. I really, really like Damian Priest. I can't stand the girl, and I forgot her name. Sue me. Rhea Ripley. Can't stand her. But I love Dom. Dominic Mysterio. Dirty Dom. Fuck yeah. I was hooked. I was like, fuck yeah, I want to see this guy. I want to see more Dirty Dom. I want to see more fucking Judgment Day. And then they did actually break up the bloodline. Kinda, sorta, halfway. So I was like, alright, they're making progress. And then it was a combination of them changing the characters I like so that they weren't recognizable as the characters I like. Again, going back to when I started, another wrestler I fell in love with instantly was Baron Corbin, and I was rooting for him, and then they did the whole miserable Corbin for a while, and then they did the lucky happy Corbin for a while, and then they did Corbin with that old timer dude for a little bit, for like 5 minutes, and then they're like, you know what, we give up. We don't know what we're doing with Corbin, so we're just not doing nothing with Corbin. And I was like, Jesus Christ, you fucked over another one of my favorite wrestlers. So it was almost like, I would pick a wrestler I liked, with a gimmick I liked, and a storyline I could follow and get into, and the WWE would just toss them aside and say, nah, we changed our mind. We want to push this asshole instead. And it was always some asshole I couldn't stand. Seth motherfucking give me a break Rollins. Fucking Cody I don't give a damn Rhodes. Fucking Sami Zayn. Fucking Sami Zayn's partner, I can't even keep his name in my head. Fucking God, I hate Roman Reigns. I can talk about him all day long. Can't stand Rey Mysterio. Can't stand God, what's his name? I hate him so much. There's Bayley. I can't stand her. I hate her. Charlotte Flair. The more I hate a wrestler, the more they push that wrestler. The more I like a wrestler, the less they use that wrestler. And I started to realize my tastes, my preferences, what I'm looking for in a wrestling match, what I want in a wrestling storyline, what I'm drawn to in a wrestling character, does not line up with the general fan. So the fan base doesn't want what I want. And WWE has to cater to the fan base because that's how they pay their goddamn bills. And so I get brushed aside. And so I stopped watching. I haven't watched a full episode of Raw or SmackDown since August. I've watched like bits and pieces of a handful of episodes since then, like 3 or 4 maybe, like the main event or the first match or like, you know, until the first commercial break or etc. I don't really get into it anymore. And I decided, and I talked this over with my girlfriend, and we basically decided the same thing, that we're just going to watch the pay-per-views. We're not going to watch Raw. We're not going to watch SmackDown. We were never watching fucking NXT. I had no interest in NXT. I still wish to God that they would cancel NXT and just get the fucking rid of it. I hate NXT. It pisses me off that it exists. And it really pisses me off that people like it, because that means it's going to stick around. I never could get into AEW. I tried to get into Ring of Honor, but I got into Ring of Honor at a time where they were going through turmoil, so it was like, Jesus Christ, wrong time to get into Ring of Honor. And I don't really have the mental capacity to follow any other pro wrestling storylines or characters and whatnot right now. So, as of this moment in time, I am currently, as of this moment in time, watching the 4 big pay-per-views a year. I'm less interested in the monthly random pay-per-views as I was previously, and I have zero interest in the day-to-day, week-to-week storylines. Especially now that they brought CM Punk and Randy Orton back. 2 more motherfuckers I can't fucking stand, and I know the fans love CM Punk, so they're gonna give that asshole a big goddamn push. And I don't like Randy Orton because I previously, like I said, loved The Fiend, and Randy Orton killed The Fiend. So why would I root for the guy that killed my favorite wrestler? I mean, character in the storyline. Why? Why would I root for somebody just... So as of right now, I am fed up with WWE. So there was 3 solid years of my life where I watched week to week, every week, with a handful of exceptions. Like, you know, maybe I would miss an episode, I'd catch it on Hulu the next day or later in the week or whatever, or I'd fall behind and then I'd get caught up later on. But for the most part, I was a loyal viewer for almost 3 whole years. More or less. And I just don't give a fuck. I'm over it. I'm done. I just don't give a fuck. I'm over it. I can't deal with it. I just... Jesus fucking Christ. I don't even want to know what they're going to do to Dirty Dom in 6 months. I'm going to turn the TV on, and I'm going to be watching SmackDown, and he's going to be a goddamn face, a baby face. I don't want that.